Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to our weekly Torah class, Torah and Tacos. But I thought that this week, being that we're just exactly a week away from Purim, or even less, and 6 nights from now, Monday, Monday night is Purim. I figured this is the last class before Purim. I'll teach about Purim. Now, the story of Purim, I assume you all know, but I'll tell it anyway, and I'll go through it quickly with some additional information that you may know, you may not know, and then I'll go a much deeper layer. Might be a bit deep, but I'll do the best I can to give over the topic in a way that you can appreciate, understand, and have a new appreciation for Purim. So I gave everyone the actual Megillah here, and then I made a few copies because we're going to zero in on some underlined areas, and we'll talk about that later on. So the story of Purim happens about 23 to 2,400 years ago. Okay? Right? It's maybe even more, 2,400 years ago. It happens at the end of the Babylonian exile, between the two temples. So the temple was destroyed in the year 69 or 70, let's say. Subtract 420 years from when it was built. That brings us to 350 BCE. So just before that, so it's about 2,350 years ago, something like that. Okay. We know that the first temple was destroyed by Babylonia, by the king Nebuchadnezzar. And when the story of Purim happens, the Babylonian Empire is gone, is overthrown by the Persian Empire. And at this time, Achashverosh is the king. Achashverosh is the Hebrew word for his name. I think in English it's Xerxes or something like that. And how did he become a king altogether? He was a nobody. In fact, the Talmud says he was a foolish man. How do you become a king if you're not smart and this and that? So the answer is you marry the daughter of the king. And he married Vashti, and Vashti was the daughter of Nebuchadnezzar. I can't remember if she was the daughter or the granddaughter, but I'm not sure. But she was a direct line from Nebuchadnezzar, either one generation or two. And as such, he was able to get himself into the bloodline of the king, and which was the Babylonian king, but still there were, now it's Persia, but he had a foothold in the royal family. However, there are two things I heard about Achashverosh's insecurities. He has major insecurities. Number one, there was a prophecy by the Jewish prophets that the exile in Babylonia would only be for 70 years. And that after 70 years, the Jews would be freed and they would come back to Israel. And the question was, with the calculation, when does the 70 years begin? Because first, the Jewish people, they were exiled in 2 phases at the end of the first destruction. At the end of the first temple. For 11 years before the destruction, the king was taken to Babylonia, captured and taken to Babylonia, but not everyone was yet driven into exile. 11 years later, they destroyed the temple and everyone was driven into exile. So the question became, when do the 70 years begin? Now Achashverosh was the king at the end of the 70 years, if you count from 11 years before. So he was very worried that his kingdom is coming to an end, because the prophet said that after 70 years of the exile, the Jewish people are, that they'll go, and that would be it, which would bring a big, it would be a hit to his kingdom if the Jews left. So he was counting the days. He was counting the 70 years. And the story of Purim opens up that Achashverosh made a grand party for 180 days in the capital of his kingdom called Shushan. Now, who makes a party for 180 days? It's like it's extravagant. It's insane. And then he makes a party for another week. At the end of the 106 months, he makes another party for 7 days for the Shushanite people. The first 180 days was for everyone. The second 7 days was for the locals. But why does he make such a party? Well, he made such a party because when the 70 years was up and the Jews were not yet building their second temple, he was always afraid that his kingdom is going to come to an end. He is on thin ice. But when the prophecy came, the 70 years ended and the Jews were still not released, and the promise of the second temple and the new commonwealth didn't happen, he felt that his kingdom was fully established now. And that's why he made the party. So he always had these insecurities. Am I really going to be a king for long term? This was his mistake, because 11 years later, indeed, because the count of 70 years started from the destruction, not from the 11 years before, when the first batch of Jews were kicked out of Israel. Okay, so there you get one reason. Another reason I heard was exactly what I said in the beginning, that he really wasn't from any line, he didn't have any royal blood. He was a commoner, he was a nobody. And he happened to marry into the kingdom. And you know what happens when you're not really worthy of the kingdom? You're just a guy that, happened to fall into it. And it's like Meghan Markle, she's in the wrong person in the right place, right? It's not exactly, she always has this, am I really the prince? Am I a princess? She always has this inferiority complex about her status, right? Did I say it right? Meghan Markle, is that her name? Yeah, right, sorry. So he was trying to buy the favor of the people, so that they shouldn't look down at him. So he makes this grand party, invites everyone, and gives them a lavish time, and everyone is happy. So that's the way this story begins. And it goes into the whole thing that he got drunk at the end of the 7 days, and he summoned his wife Vashti to come, and she wouldn't come. That's interesting that back in the day, the men and the women made two separate parties. That's an interesting thing, that the king made a party for the men in one palace, and Vashti made another party for the women in another palace. It's an interesting concept. Yeah, I guess that was common practice by all peoples, not just the Jews. Not to mingle like that, in a party setting. But what happens next is one of the most amazing things that one can imagine. The Midrashim, the Talmud tells us that the king was so drunk that he ordered his wife to come before him in public unclothed to show off her beauty, literally unclothed, completely. The Talmud goes further to tell us that she would have done it. That's how sick this woman was. That's how he was a sick man and she was a sick woman. They had no limits to their... But a miracle happened, and Hashem, suddenly she broke out with a terrible case of boils on her face and her whole body. And she was not going to obviously show up like that, so she didn't come. And at that very moment, one of the ministers of the king was a man by the name of Haman. And he was the one that advised the king, who was drunk, to assassinate her. How could chutzpah, she won't come? How could you allow such a thing? And the text is very clear about it. And he kills her. He assassinates her. And Haman is then raised to a very high status in the kingdom. Now, I should mention that if you read the text, it says over here that at this party, Achashverosh wanted everyone to be happy, right? Because he's trying to buy their favor, right? So he invited the Jewish people to come also. And he made sure that they had a mashgiach in the kitchen of the palace and to make it kosher food. I'm not exaggerating this, I'm serious. They had kosher food for everyone. Kirtzon ish va'ish. Everyone was able to choose whatever they wanted. The end of the first page of it, page 2. You wanted it to comply with each man's wish. They gave you an offer. You want kosher? What level kosher? You want Beit Yosef? You want Lubavitch? You want what chicken or meat do you want? What level of? Everyone should have exactly what. And there was kosher wine. Everything was kosher for the Jews. But the Jews behaved at this party in a way that was terrible. And I once read that no one ordered a kosher meal. Not one of the Jews ordered a kosher meal. They were so embarrassed with themselves, and so they felt, oh, if we're invited here, we're one of everyone. We mingle so well. They assimilated so bad that even when they had on the menu, you could ask for kosher, legitimate kosher. They didn't go for it. And it was then that God in heaven decided that if they've so lost respect for themselves and allowed themselves to become such a desecration to Hashem's name, that being offered, they shouldn't be there to begin with at this party. It wasn't an environment for the party. So I'll tell you another interesting detail. Talmud tells us that Achashverosh, now that he's sure that the Jews are not going back to the temple, the 70 years are over, he had in his treasury for the Babylonian kingdom, he had all the items of the holy temple, the gold vessels and everything. They brought them to Babylonia, and he displayed them on the tables at the party. You can imagine the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur is doing the service in the holy temple with these same vessels, and now it's being used for Achashverosh's orgy. You could imagine, and the Jews are there. And so they shouldn't have been there all together. But if you're going to be there and he's offering you kosher food and you say no, that was already a one step too much. And it was at that moment that Hashem decided that he's going to allow a decree of annihilation to take place. To make the long story short, Haman has the queen killed. And now she deserved what she got, by the way, because she was a very vicious woman. She mistreated the Jewish girls that worked in the palace. She made them work on Shabbos, and she was just a terrible person. So she got what she deserved. But now the king was sobered up. He went to sleep, and he wakes up in the morning. The queen's not near him. Where's the queen? Oh, something happened last night, So he's now depressed, and he's very upset, and he needs a queen. He can't be without a queen. So he sets up this whole beauty contest that's going to happen now over the next few years. It was a long time. And lo and behold, by divine design, one Jewish girl that was in this contest, Esther, who doesn't want to be in this contest, but she's forced to be there because everyone has to come. She's the one that was chosen to be the queen, which you know all that story. And she becomes the queen, and Haman, as I said, becomes very popular in the royal court. So does Mordechai, by the way, as Esther's uncle or cousin. And Haman devises a plan to kill all the Jewish people. He hated the Jewish people to begin with, but he became even more enraged when he saw that Mordechai wasn't bowing to him, wasn't budging. because the king passed a rule that Haman passes, everyone has to bow. Now Haman he put an idol worship, like an idol, on his neck, so that when people bow, they're bowing not only to him but to his idol. And Mordechai wasn't going to bow not to his idol and not to him. So this caused him a lot of anger, and this was in public, and he couldn't stand it, and he found out he's Jewish, and he decided to kill everyone. And what he does is, he's deciding, when should I kill everyone? What's the best day of the year? So he makes a lottery. That's what it says. He made a lottery, and he put 12 pieces of paper with each Jewish month on it, and then another 30 pieces of paper with the 30 days on it, and he picks out Adar, and he picks out the 13th day. That's what happened. And he comes to the king to tell him that, these people are no good, and the king is bought into it, and the king goes along with it. He gives him a stamp of approval. The word gets out that they're killing everyone. Mordechai finds out about it. He goes to the king. He goes to the palace. Tells Esther, this is your moment. That's why you were there to begin with. You must go to the king and beg on behalf of the Jewish people. Which she says, I really can't do that because I wasn't invited for a month already to be in the king's presence. And if you come uninvited, you get killed, so I can't do it. So he tells her, you have no choice. You better do it, and if you don't do it, the salvation will come anyway, with you or without you. But you will go down in history as someone that failed her people. And she musters up the courage, and she does it. They set up a fast day for 3 days. She goes to the queen, and I'm not going to go through the whole story. She sets up a party for Haman and Achashverosh. You know the basics of the story. You read it many times probably. And I encourage you to read it again this year, of course, twice, next Monday night and Tuesday. And at the end, she invites the king and the Haman to the party, and Haman wants to kill Mordechai and the people, and he doesn't know why he's invited, and the king doesn't understand why Haman is invited to a private party between her and her husband. What's going on? Why is this third party person there? So the king is now, suspicious what's going on. And he comes to the party the next day, that day, and what do you want? How can I help you? I'll give you half the kingdom if you want. And she said, let's make another party tomorrow. And now he's sitting 2 days already, and he has to now worry what's going on between Esther and Haman, that this guy is invited to my private party twice already in a row. What is he doing here? And his mind is racing. In his mind, he can't sleep that night, as the story goes. He can't fall asleep. He thinks his wife is in an affair with Haman. Can you imagine what's going on? And finally, the next day, they come to the party, and she tells him he wants to kill my people. Because she didn't know that he was Jewish. They didn't know she was Jewish till that moment. And the king is enraged, has Haman hung, and he turns their whole thing around now, and the Jewish people can now take revenge against those that want to kill them. And that's when the party of Purim and this holiday of Purim, when everything was turned around for the Jewish people. And at the end of the Megillah, we read a verse, and this is where I want to bring your attention to this leaflet here. It's on your first page of the copies, and I underlined it in Hebrew and in English. This is in chapter 9 of the Megillah Esther, verse 26. We're talking about the name of the holiday, that Esther and Mordechai gave the name of Purim this name. Why they give this name? Says the Megillah, Al Cain, therefore, for this they, 26 in English, I'll read it in English. For this did they call these days Purim. Why they give the name Purim to this holiday? What does the word Purim mean, you know? Anyone know what the word Purim means? Before you read. It means the lot. It means the lots. After the Pur, the famous Pur, what's the Pur? What are we talking about? Anyone know what we're talking about? Oh, good. Turn to the next here. Let's turn to the next page. This is from these. I'm referring you back to the Pur. This is in the 3rd chapter of the book of Esther. and I underlined this too, in the first month, which is the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus' reign, a lottery, which is a lot, was cast before Haman for every day and every month, and it fell on the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. So because of the lot that Haman made, later when the whole thing was turned around and to benefit the Jewish people, they're going to look, now how do we name this holiday? Oh, we're going to give the name of the holiday after Haman's lot. What? Why would they do that? Why would Esther and Mordechai give the name Purim to remind us for the next all these thousands of years? The lot that Haman made was a terrible thing for us. It was a threat of annihilation. So we're going to give now this name of this holiday to remember his lot? Give the name Mordechai, Esther, the good, the change. What are you giving the name of this holiday for the rest of history? Purim, to remind us of that Haman threw lots to be able to decide when to kill us. It's ridiculous. Like you imagine you gave a name for a holiday for the Holocaust, for the fact that we survived the Holocaust, we've survived the Holocaust, we're going to give the name the 1C Conference. Imagine you give the name of the Jewish holiday to commemorate that God saved us, and we have Israel and we have the Jewish people, the 1C Conference. Can you imagine that? Or the Final Solution. You give it the name the Final Solution. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. But yet we call it Purim al Shem HaPur, to remind of because of that Pur. Of which Pur? The Pur, HaPur, the famous Pur. Which one is that? Which is the famous lot? The one that Haman made. Why would we do that? What's the meaning of this? You ever thought of this question?
No,
but it's such an obvious question. What?
It's not the same day that we also.
It is the same day. So
it's not only the day we destroy the Jewish, it's also the day that
they didn't destroy the Jews, but we're celebrating that we were saved. And what name are we giving? A name is an important thing in Jewish. He did it. He threw the lots in the month of Nisan. And what? It's connected to Purim also, Yom Kippur as well. We'll get there. It's very interesting. This whole thing, this whole dynamic is very interesting. We're naming the holiday for thousands of years after the lot that Haman cast. Why would we want to even think of him or mention him or hint to him or anything to have to do with him? We should erase his memory. So I want to share with you a Kabbalistic take on this. And I told you, it's not the easiest piece of work, but I think it's powerful stuff. So let's begin, okay? You mentioned Yom Kippur, which is a very good mention. Yom Kippur in the Torah is not called Yom Kippur. You'll never find in the Torah anywhere the words Yom Kippur. Did you know that? How is Yom Kippur called in the Torah? What's the name for Yom Kippur in the Torah? Ba'asar l'chodesh hashvi'i. True too, but that's not the name, that's just the date. How is this day called? Yom Kippurim. That's what it's called. That's what it's called in the Torah. It's not called Yom Kippur. It's Yom Kippurim. That's what it's called. Day of Atonement. But you can't help but notice that Yom Kippurim in the Hebrew also means a day like Purim. That's what the word means, a day like Purim, which is an amazing concept. It's a day like Purim, Yom Kippurim. Now, when you compare this day to that day, and that's the paradigm, it means that this day, that day that's it. And this we're comparing to that, this is also. It means that Purim, in a way, is the paradigm, and Yom Kippur is like Purim. Isn't that interesting? We consider Yom Kippur the holiest day of the year. And Purim, it turns out to become, wait a minute, Purim is the big thing, and Yom Kippurim is like Purim. It means that Purim is even higher than Yom Kippur. How can we say that? Is that true? But it is. Let me explain to you why. So, by the way, I don't know if you realize,
The roots of these two names is different.
I know that. I agree with you. Well, you'll see in a minute that not necessarily. Yeah, the root is different. This is atonement, and this is lots.
Well, did the Jews make atonement for their sins of eating kosher?
Yes, they did. Absolutely, they did.
Because it was.
Yeah.
Why did God decide to save them then?
Because you'll hear and we'll get there. It'll all be answered. But there's an interesting thing over here. There's one holiday. We said that Purim is lots, right? Purim is lots. So is Yom Kippur. You know that in Yom Kippur, when the temple stood, every Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, would bring into the temple 2 goats. 2 goats. It's in the portion in the book of Leviticus. It describes it in detail. He would take 2 goats that were exactly equal, and he would cast lots. Which one would be brought as an offering inside the temple, and which would be sent out, Lazazel, to the cliff to atone for the Jewish people. So they would cast lots there too. We find on Yom Kippur and Purim lots. It's interesting, an interesting connection between them. So what's going on over here? Let me explain what's happening there. So, another question. Do you know that the Bible has 24 books? The Bible has 24 books. Book of Genesis, Exodus, and then there's Joshua. The Megillah Esther is the only book in the whole Bible where God's name is not mentioned even once. You read the story, you don't see a miracle. It's just a story, history. We're reading history. God's not part of the story. You don't see anything. There's no mention of his name. I remember there was a Jew here in Weston 30 years ago, 25 years ago, who came to the shul on Purim, maybe the first time, an Israeli Jew. He's reading it. He says, I never read this story. It's an amazing story, but it doesn't sound like a biblical story. Because biblical stories is God, miracles. It's like, God's everywhere, right? This is just like you read a novel. It's a story about a king, a queen, the right people, the right time. Why is this in the Bible? He didn't understand. But we know that the word Esther, the word Esther means? Esther means concealment.
What does it mean?
Concealment. To conceal, to hide, lahastir. And indeed, I mentioned to you that this story happens after the destruction of the first temple, before the building of the second temple, when the Jews were in exile, and God was concealed from the Jewish people. By the way, we wear costumes on Purim. You know that? Why do we wear costumes on Purim? Because Jews need it on Halloween? No. There's a very holy thing behind the costume. What we're saying is that God was also in a costume on Purim. He was completely concealed. He was concealed. He was covered. What is a costume? You're covered. You look like a clown. You look like a pirate. You look like whatever. You look like something else. You don't look like yourself. That's what a costume is. You're covering yourself. Hashem was in a costume throughout the whole story of Purim. And that's the message, my friend. When you read the story, it looks like just another story that nature is happening. You look in the morning, the sun rises. You look in the afternoon, the sun sets. It rains in the season of rain, and it's sunny and sunny. It's hot in the season of the summer. And, you plant the seed, things grow. You don't plant, things don't grow. Life, nature is happening in front of us. We take it for granted. What is nature? This story is nature. This looks like a natural story, the story of Esther. There was a king, there was a queen, he killed him, he got angry, and he needed a new queen, and she's just right there, but you don't see God in this story. This is a nature happening in front of us. But this is only a custom. The whole nature is one big custom. It's God covered in a custom. The whole nature, everything is God. But nature is God covered in a custom. He's wearing a costume. He's hiding himself. You think it's the sun, the moon, we call it nature. It's all God's doing. And the same thing in the Megillah say the story of Esther. God is doing everything. He's putting the pieces in the right place. But it's not a major miracle like the splitting of the sea or the 10 plagues, like what happened on Pesach and the Hanukkah and other such miracles. This doesn't happen that way. It's God working in disguise, hidden. So my job tonight, for the next whatever, is to try to uncover, to take away the mask, and to reveal Megillat Esther, to reveal the nature, that which is hidden. That's what Megillat Esther means. To reveal the galot at Esther, to reveal that which is hidden. What's being hidden over here? Let's talk about this a little bit. Okay, so when we read the story, turn to page 2 again. We read the story, it's a story about a king Achashverosh, right? I'll just read the first verse for you. And it came to pass in the days of Achashverosh, the same Achashverosh who ruled from Hodu to Cush, 127 provinces. Okay, it's a king, big king, very powerful king. He was the king of the world, as we call today the superpower, and he was great. He can make a party. He has all the money, all the power, he has everything. And then what unfolds is a plot to kill the Jewish people. The question that I have is, how indeed could a Haman make such a plot to kill the Jewish people? How could God allow such a thing to happen? How was he successful to be able to even get as far as he did? Thank God at the end it was turned over, but how was he successful to do this? How on high in heaven was this allowed? How could he? Hashem chose the Jewish people starting from Abraham. He chose them at the mountain of Sinai and gave them the Torah. He's their beloved people. Hashem says, I love you. Comes a man, and he casts lots, or decides to kill everyone. And it works, almost. The decree happens. And there's a panic. The Jewish people are panicking for a long year. It says they repented for a long year, and they don't ask what they had to do to get this thing turned around. But for a time being, it looked like Haman got God to go along with him. How does a Russia like that get God to go along with him? So I'll present to you some of the spiritual dynamic of all of this. God gave the Torah and the mitzvahs at Sinai, right? He told us this is what you have to do, and if you do it, everything will be good, and so on. Who does Torah and mitzvahs in this world? The Jewish people. We're his beloved people because we follow his ways. And the Gemara says that even a wicked Jew, what's a wicked Jew? Someone that's sinful, that doesn't do the mitzvahs. Even such a Jew is full of mitzvahs like a pomegranate that's full of seeds. Every Jew has mitzvahs. So how could Haman pass a decree of annihilation on the beloved people of God? If they're in this world, I mean, when you measure them against Haman, the Jewish people are way better than him. You can't compare them. Even the sinful Jew. So how does he get God to go along with him? There's no justice in this world. You're right, they ate from the party. They ate non-kosher. First of all, they ate non-kosher. The non-kosher is a death penalty for men, women, and children. But what's going on over here? How does he successfully reach such a place where he can turn God against the Jewish people like this? He can't do this by himself. God has to agree with him. How does he get God to agree with him? So I'll share with you a Kabbalistic idea. Turn to the 4th page of this leaflet that I gave you. What are the first 3 words of the of the Megillah. What are the three first words of the Megillah? Vayehi bimei Achashverosh. It was in the days of Achashverosh. So who's Achashverosh? The king of Persia, of course. We know who he is, the foolish king. But our sages tell us that Achashverosh is a reference to God as well. Achashverosh is a one word made up of three words. Acharis, Vereshis, Shaloi. Look at this page. The last page of this booklet. I wrote it in Hebrew because there's no other way to do it. This is a Hebrew construct. But you read some Hebrew. Cursive? Okay, I'll tell you what it is. Achashverosh is made up, the first two letters is abbreviation of Acharis. The Vav Resh, Vero, is Vereshis. And the last Shin is Shalom. What does this mean? This is a reference to God, who is limitless, who the beginning and the end is all His. It's all the same to Him. The end and the beginning is all the same to Him. What does the end and the beginning mean over here? The upper world is the beginning, the highest, and the end is the lower world, right? Everything is, and He's so infinite that it's all the same to Him. The highest world, the lower world, all the same to Him. Shalai, I mean, it's all His, it's all the same. Meaning, He's beyond it all. So when it says over here, it was in the days of Achashverosh, we're talking about a time of exile when God is looking at the world, upper world and lower world as all the same. He's beyond it all. He's not paying attention to to what's happening in these realms because He's above it. It's all the same. Let me give you an example. I'll explain this. The end and the beginning is all His means the end could also be a reference to the sinfulness. And the beginning could be a reference to holiness. And it's all the same to Him. He's so beyond, He's removed. God is removed. What does removed mean? He's on a higher level of reality that the Russia, the sinful person, and the tzaddik, and the holy person is all the same. It doesn't make a difference to Him. He's removed. And that was the time of exile. When the Jews were thrown out of Israel, God was removed. I said it was a covering, right? He was removed to the point where the end and the beginning, the holy and the unholy, is all the same. So this is already, the whole period was one that God is a little removed, so to say. And our good deeds of the Jewish people and the bad deeds of Haman and his people are seen as the same. Cite an example. I'll cite an example. Alter Rebbe gives this example. Sometimes you have a lofty person, very lofty people that are in higher things. You walk into their home, you can see a cockroach running around. Me and you, if we would see a cockroach, we'd call the exterminator. You can't tolerate it. Right? We got to get rid of the cockroach. Because we're delicate. Because we care about these little things. But people that are removed, a king, for example. King is so removed, he's in such a higher level of reality that in the palace you can find sometimes dirt, and he doesn't care. He's too beyond it. Maybe his ministers would care, but he's beyond it. He's not moved by that. He's not moved by it. In the world, God is the king of the world, but when in Golus, when we're in exile, He's removed. He's on a high level of reality, and therefore, you can have cockroaches running around, and He doesn't care. They can be in the palace of the king. In other words, evil people, and that's okay. The good, the bad, it's all the same. Right? You following? But what happens if even that king, suddenly these cockroaches start breaking windows in the palace? That not that a cockroach could break a window, but imagine there was something over there that got so out of hand that it was already destroying the whole palace. He would step in. That he wouldn't tolerate. So when we say Vayihi b'mei Achashverosh, this is a time where Hashem is removed and the good and the bad is all the same. But the good and the bad is not really all the same. It's good and all the same as long as the bad is not really destroying the world. But to Haman, to be able to destroy the world, that can't happen. To destroy the Jewish people, that he wouldn't allow. Even if God's removed, that he wouldn't allow. So the question is, even in the time of Achashverosh, when this is reality and God's removed, and the bad, the good, the beginning, the end, it's all the same, and he doesn't care. He doesn't care if he pains us a little bit, but not annihilation. The whole palace is coming down. He's going to step in and say, no way, that's not happening. Not on my watch. So how does Haman, if he wants to annihilate the Jewish people, how does he do it? He can't rely on the fact that the Jews are in exile and God's a little removed and it's all the same to him. It's not all the same. It's not literally all the same. To a certain degree, it's all the same. But when you go crazy completely to annihilate the Jewish people, that you can't do. It's not the same. God would step in then. So how does he go to a place, how does he make God agree to annihilate the Jewish people? You cast lots. You cast lots. What's lots? Why does someone cast lots? The Kabbalah, what? When do you cast lots? Someone gives you an apple or an orange. Puts in front of you an apple or an orange. You're going to cast lots which to take? No. If you like oranges, you're going to take the orange. If you like you know what you want, right? Well, you cast lots when there's two equals. When there's pure two equals, then you don't know what to take. You don't know which to choose. They put in front of you two pieces of fish that look exactly the same. Or $2, they look exactly the same. Which one should you take? You don't know. So you can do eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and just take one of them. Makes no difference. Or you cast lots. What's lots? Lots means you're giving over. You don't know what to want here because they're both exactly the same. So you give over your will to the lots, right? Whatever the lot decides, that's what I'm going to want. Correct? So lots are a situation where there's no part in you that can choose either of this because they're both exactly the same. What does Haman do? Now, when I say Haman, I don't mean the Haman that lives in Shushan. Haman is also a spiritual Haman. There's also a force of evil in his soul that's in touch with a little higher realities also, who's directing the Haman down here. So the spiritual Haman knows, I want to kill the Jewish people. How am I doing this? How am I getting God to agree to this? The king should give his sample of approval. We said before, who's Achashverosh? God. God gives a stamp of approval to this, right? He gives a signet ring, and he passes the decree with the king's agreement. Who's the king? We just said the king is God. Achashverosh, Achrid Vareshi Shalom. The beginning and the end is his. He has to agree to this. How does Haman get the king to agree to this? So the Kabbalah explains like this. Haman is forced to realize that I have to climb into a level of Hashem. I have to touch him in a place where Jews and Haman are exactly equal. Where they're literally equal. And there's really no difference. Is there such a place in the spiritual realm, in God, that the Jewish people and Haman are all exactly the same? There actually is. There actually is. There is. There's a statement in the Gemara. There's a statement in the Torah that says like this: Im tzadakta matitan le. If you do good, what do you think you gave him? V'rabu b'shoecha, and the many sins that you did, matasale. What do you think you're doing to him? It's all the same to him. In other words, there's a place, that super infinite level of Hashem, that which is beyond anything. Beyond any categories, beyond any definitions, beyond anything. Well, good is not good and bad is not bad. It's all exactly the same. As God lowers himself, so to say, you can say good is good and bad is bad. Right? But where he's truly beyond the world completely, he's beyond any any definition, beyond any description. Nothing can move him because he's so beyond it. So there, Moshe Rabbeinu and Haman is the same. Mordechai and Haman are the same. And it says that there's a place where Hashem, he says, I don't know which to choose, the tzaddikim's deeds or the evil people's deeds. It's all the same to him. Because he's beyond this world, he's beyond the effect, he's beyond everything. He made it all. So he's obviously beyond it all. He's beyond goodness, he's beyond evil, he's beyond everything. So good and evil is all the same to him. Haman knows this. The spiritual Haman knows this. And that level is called Latz, Geirel. That level is called Geirel. That's the level where Haman climbs up, so to say, in the spiritual ladder. He says, I gotta go beyond all the levels. I have to be talking to that level of reality, where it really is no difference. And over there, Hashem says, you want to kill them, you don't want, it's all the same, right? Haman and Mordechai is all the same. So he casts lots and it works. Listen to this. Let's go to the end of this. He casts lots and it works.
So what makes you change?
Good question. And it worked. What happens at the end? It turns around. It flips, right? At the end, Hashem doesn't let him kill the Jewish people. The king turns on him. He gets angry, and Esther comes in and pleads with the king, meaning Hashem, it's a reference to God, right? And he's raged now on Haman, how could you want to kill my Jewish people? And he hangs him on the gallows. By the way, you want to hear another interesting twist to this? The Megillah is a funny Megillah. If you don't know what you're reading, you don't pay attention to the nuances, you just flip it by and you don't even think what you're reading. I want to point out one more verse, and we'll talk about that also. It'll be another 10 minutes, okay? In 10 minutes we'll be done. But let me show you something interesting. At some point in the Megillah, in chapter 5, Haman is so enraged on Mordechai, and he makes the gallows. He builds gallows to hang him, right? You remember that? The Gemara, the Megillah makes us interesting mention of the fact that these gallows were 50 cubits high. Who cares how high it is? And if it's 40 cubits high, you know how high 40 cubits is? 60 feet. Way higher than that. You can hang on a 20-foot gallows. You can hang a person on a 10-foot gallows. On a 20-foot for sure. What do you have to mention that was 50 feet high? 50 cubits high? What? No. What did they use for the temple? No, maybe. But no, let me tell you. I'll tell you soon. So I just want to point that out, right? And eventually Haman gets hung there. On the same gallows that he wants to hang Mordechai, he gets hung. On the same 50 amos cubit gallows. So what did we just say? That the lots, that's where Haman casts lots. He has to reach up into God in a place where truly there's no difference. That level I said before, God in exile, Achashverosh, Acharit, Vereshit, Shalo, they're equal, but they're not really equal. But he has to reach even higher than that. To the level of God at the lots level, where there really is no difference. I don't know how to choose over here. So you have to cast lots, because they're both the same. So Haman is able to climb and reach that level in God, and over there, Haman and Mordechai are the same. That's why he cast the lots. So you question how then, what happened at the end? Why didn't he succeed all the way with that? So here comes a fourth level. Here comes another level. It's not even another level. It's an interesting concept that's discussed all over the Torah. You ever heard the idea that God chose the Jewish people? What does it mean to choose something? What does it mean to choose something? What? There was an alternative. So there's two things, you have to choose from them, one among the other, right? If I told you that there's a wonderful person coming into this room, and you can say hello to him, or there's a raging bull coming in, and you can go say and pad there, and go talk to the bull. Which one will you choose? Which one will you choose? It's a silly question. That choice doesn't apply there. You know why? Because when you're forced to go with one over the other, then you didn't choose anything. You're compelled to go. You're compelled to run away from the raging bull to go talk to a fine young man. Or if you have two pieces of food in your plate, one you like, one you don't like, you say, "I chose the one that I like." That's not choice. Choice is where there's equals. Where there's two equals, you choose. Your mind doesn't compel you one way or the other, or your nature doesn't compel you one way or the other. But what happens if a person has there's poison in front of him and there's healthy food in front of him? Oh, I chose the healthy food. That's called choice. It was chosen for you. There was not choice. So you're compelled to do it. If you're a normal person, you have to choose the healthy food and not eat the poison. That's not choice. And the same thing if you naturally like fish and you hate alfalfa, and they put fish and alfalfa in front of you. There's no reason that you want to take the fish over the alfalfa, but you're naturally attracted to this over this. It's not a rational thing. It's more a natural thing. Either way, you're compelled. This is not a choice. You have to do that. You have to reach for the one that either your brain tells you is the right thing for you, or your nature tells you is the right thing for you. You simply can't choose any other way. So when it says that God chose the Jewish people, what does this even mean? You're talking about a level, which we said before, right? To cast lots, right? When do you do lots? When you don't know what to choose. They're both the same. You can't choose. You don't know what to do. So what do? You give it over to the lots. I'm not going to choose. I'll have the lots choose for me. Right? That's what lots are. In other words, you're at a place where they're both equal, and I don't know what to choose. I don't know which one to take, because I'm not pulled in any direction. So I throw it over to the lots. Let the eeny, meeny, miny, mo, or two pieces of paper and a hat. You pick up one. Okay, this is the one I'll do. There's another way to do it. When you're casting lots, it means that you're giving up. You're not making a choice over here. You're letting someone else make a choice. You're letting a piece of paper make a choice for you. But imagine you decided, I want this one. I have no reason, but that's what I decided to want. The two equals, you're right, 100%, but I'm not going to give it over to someone else. I'm going to make a choice. Why are you going to make a choice? I'm going to decide this one is the one I want, and that one I don't. Now, human beings don't have a frame of reference to have such a situation where you make such choices, because we're hardly ever presented with two equals. But God, yeah, because God truly is above everything. To him, a Jew, Haman, and Mordechai really is the same before he chooses. Before, at that level, where he's beyond everything, he's beyond description, beyond good, beyond bad, he's beyond everything. Over there, he could choose Haman. He could, just like he can choose Mordechai. But he makes a choice in Mordechai. And once he makes a choice, who made the choice? Who made that choice? Not a low level of Hashem. The essence of Hashem. You're talking about the highest level of Hashem, where he's beyond description, beyond anything. And there's two equals in front of him, good and bad. And he decides, I'm going with the good. Who made that decision? Who made that decision? The essence of Hashem. What does that mean? It's the strongest choice ever you can have. It's the strongest choice you can ever have. And that's what God chose at Mount Sinai, the Jewish people. Now, for a moment in exile, in a moment of chaos, Haman went to that level. He went to the essence of Hashem. And he thought he can maneuver and manipulate and say, well, they're all the same to you, so let's cast lots and get rid of the Jews, right? And God almost for a second said, yeah, no problem, makes sense. But at the end, what does he do? He chooses the Jewish people. He makes a choice. The essence, he doesn't rely on lots. He makes a choice. And he says, I love the Jewish people and I dislike the unholy people. I want you to understand this. This is a very important concept. There was no thought. There's nothing to think. He's beyond thoughts. He created thinking. He created intellect. It's so deep within him. It's at the essence core of who he is. He wants good and he despises evil. Not because there's a reason. It's beyond reason, which means it's much stronger. If it's based on something that's pulling him in one direction or the other, so as much as pulling him, that's how much he wants it. It's limited by the pull. But when you're really not pulled in any direction, they're both equal. They really are.
So it's not explained why he chooses.
No, there's no explanation. It's an essential choice. It's an essential choice. Do you know what essential choice means?
In a way, it's not a choice.
That's what choice means. When there's no reason to choose, when there's no reason to be pulled in each direction, that's when choice takes over. That's when you cast lots. So Haman thought he can cast lots, and he did. And he thought that God will go with it. But God made a choice. At that level, he made a choice.
God didn't agree to the lots?
At the end, he didn't agree to the lots, no.
He agreed to the lots and then make a choice later. And how do you know that he made a choice later? Where does it say that?
It says that I'm going to get there. So, hold on a second.
But the same way he can choose.
Yes, he could have. But once God chose, that's it. There's no more choosing any other way. That he can't choose a different way.
No, the high level of God.
Yeah.
Choose
The Jewish people.
the Jewish people.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Why what part don't you understand? There's no why, because that's what...
It's like a lottery.
No, a lottery means you're not choosing. You're giving it over to someone else.
No, lottery just pick.
Yeah, pick means you're not choosing. You're letting someone else make the decision for you. When you make a decision, especially God, at that level, who's making this decision to want this and not that? His very essence. The core essence of Hashem at his deepest place is saying this yes and this no, and that can't ever change. It can't change because there's no reason he chose this to begin with, so there's nothing going to make him change it. You know what I'm saying? This is it. In other words, what it really means is the Jewish people are rooted in his essence. We are one with his essence.
You must like to suffer.
We must like to suffer? He must like to suffer? Oh, who did he? He doesn't have anyone better, trust me.
No, but he's showing us once again that his choice is not as the Jewish people.
So now read this. Now let's read that verse again. Now, one second. Then I want you to understand it. What? Let's not do it in Hebrew now. Do it afterwards. Yeah, one second. I want to make sure that this point is not lost on anyone. There is God as he works within the reality that he created, with his checks and balances. You do good, I like you. You don't do good, I don't like you. Why do you like me when you do good? Because good means something to me, and bad is bad. That's the world we live in, right? Because we're limited by good. We're defined. We have clear definitions. Good to us is good. If there's poison I don't like, and good food, healthy food I do like. But does an angel care about good food and poison? He's beyond poison, he's beyond food and beyond poison, beyond all of that. It's not in his world. So they're both equal to him. Right? Then that's the God, that's the level of Hashem. That's above creation, above the limited world that we live in. Acharis Vereshit Shalom. That means it's on a level where he's beyond these definitions. A little bit, he's beyond it, but not completely. Yeah, the world is, he's super, he's unlimited by the definitions of this world, but he's still within the realm. He's still, I can give you the Kabbalistic words for this. Mamala kolam, Seva kolam. He's still, the level of Hashem that encompasses this world. He's beyond it, but he's still, he's close to it, so to say. So you're right, he encompasses everything equally, but you can't say that everything is literally equal, where good and bad is pure equal. It's not. Like the king that allows some dirt in his palace. Yeah, he's beyond it. He's not thinking about it. It doesn't make an impression on him. Dirt, clean. But if they start destroying the world, then he's not going to allow that, right? It's enough. He's enough in touch where if they start breaking the windows and breaking the whole house down, he's going to stop that because he wants the house. I don't care about the cleanliness of the house, but I want the house. He's not so above. You know what I'm saying? He's above whether it's 100% clean or not, but he's not above whether there's a house or not. So if the Haman passes a bad decree against the Jewish people to make them suffer a little, he can slip that by maybe when God is a little removed from us in exile. But his annihilation, no way. So he goes a step above Achashverosh. He goes a step to the Lot's level. What's Lot's level? Where it's truly all equal. A level of Hashem that's completely beyond all definition. There's a house, there's not a house, it's all the same to him. Because he's so definitionless and so infinite that nothing really impresses him. There's nothing that pulls him in each direction. Good is not pulling him more than bad. It's all the same. Because good and bad are both two definitions that he created. So he's obviously above those definitions. So they're all the same to him. If you can reach God at that level, you can cast lots against the Jewish people and annihilate them. But what happens? There's a fourth level. That's not a fourth level. It's in the level where you're making the lots. Hashem says, I'm not making lots. I'm choosing. I've made a choice. No, not because it makes sense. Not because something pulled me in this direction. Because that would be limiting. I'm making the decision because this is at my core essence. This is what I want. This is what I decided right now is right for me, and this is wrong. And once Hashem made that decision, Haman could climb the walls and do whatever. There's nothing he will be able to do to annihilate the Jewish people. Why did he say what?
I want to choose this one.
There's no why, because...
No good, there is no bad.
Right, and yet he chooses good.
Okay.
In other words, good is not good. In other words, when you say good and bad, when you're talking about Hashem at that level,
There is no good.
there is good and bad, but they don't make no difference. They're all the same to him. And yet... Hashem, with his truest essence, decides that this is what I'm going to like and this is what I'm going to hate. Yes, there's a verse. There's no why. You're going back into the world of wisdom, of definitions, and you're asking, and you want to apply that to God. He's beyond these definitions. You're trying to limit the choice. I'm saying don't limit it. It's a pure, essential choice. Well, imagine you have two equals. You have a piece of metal in the side, right? And so it wouldn't move. What would happen? It wouldn't move, right? The middle piece of metal wouldn't move. If you have a magnet here exactly to the same distance, it wouldn't move in either direction, right? What were you thinking? So tell me what you were thinking.
Like you have a magnet and you hold it a certain way, the positive is going to be attracted to the negative, and you can't take that away. That's just the nature of that.
There's no nature. The God is not. It's not a natural choice for God.
Right,
That's
not a natural choice. It can't do anything different.
well. No, I'm talking about. No, in other words, if a human being is naturally attracted to certain food over a different food, they're both good foods. I just don't like this ice cream. I like this flavor. Right? He's compelled. He's going to go to that flavor. That's not a choice. A choice is really where there's absolutely no compelling me one way or the other.
Like our two kids.
There's nothing compelling. Exactly. You don't choose. You can't. You're right. You can't.
You can give a sample
Of two equals?
for what you
By human beings, it's very hard. By human beings, it's very hard. Because we are created.
Have a sample with food.
Yeah.
Let's say you bring 2 dishes that I don't know none of them.
Right.
I don't know none of them.
Right.
Which one I choose? The one
You're not.
that looks better to my eyes? Or
Probably. I don't know. We do that all day long. I don't know what this tastes like. I don't know what this. That's not real choice. Those are not choices. You're going to try to see which one is more appealing to you. That's not a choice. Choice is where there's no difference. Where there's truly no difference. That's when you choose. If there's a difference, you can't choose it. You're compelled. Not your choice. The thing itself made a choice for you. In other words,
but the same way you can choose.
he could have chose any one, but once he chose, that became a tie to him like this, like nothing else. There's a verse. Let me quote a verse to you.
When he said he chose them, the Jewish, way before this happened.
Right, exactly.
As soon as they choose them, that's it.
That's right, exactly, yeah. So the point is like the one second, let me tell you, I'm going to quote to you a verse. It says, in the prophets, it says like this. Ki ach Esav liYankov, Esav is the brother of Jacob. And therefore, if they're 2 brothers, they're 2 equals. Yet, as Yaakov ahavti ves Esav sanesi. Yaakov I love and Esav I hate. Hashem says this. Even though they're brothers, they're equals. There's no reason for me to love one over the other. Yet, that's what I do. That's choice. That's because he chose it. And once he chooses this over that, nothing can ever change that. Because nothing ever compelled it. So there's nothing you can do to change that choice. If it was based on something, so you can interfere with that something and get him to change his choice. If it was never based on any reason, wasn't based on any compelling, wasn't based on any attraction to her. It was essentially chosen that way. He made it, he tied himself to the Jewish people and said, this is my beloved people. Why? Because. But once he said it, and once he acted, nothing can ever change that. So yes, Haman could try to cast lots. And this is where the 50 cubit gallows comes in. It says we count 49 levels, right? In the Sfirat HaOmer, there are 49 levels, right? 49 days. What are the 49 days? So they correspond to the 49 Sfirot. There are 7 Sfirot intertwined with all 7, so it's 49. The 50th level is Shavuos, right? The 50th day is Shavuot. From the 49 days from Pesach. What's the 50th day? Hashem takes you into, it says the 50th level is where he takes you in, and once you're in there, you're never out.
So that's the 50.
So Haman makes a 50 gallows, 50 cubit gallows. What's the 50? He's trying to reach beyond the 49. He's trying to reach God at that 50th level, and he almost does. It's the same as the lots. He's making lots, and he wants to go after Mordechai to show him as an example. So you're there too. How am I going to get? He gets to the 50th level, which is beyond our natural order, where God is beyond all that, and he taps into that level of God, and he hangs him, and he's ready to hang him. The next day he's hanging him. It almost works. It's on that very gallows that he's hung.